Hi, my name is Kirsten Hanson, and I'm doing a short lecture for my history class at Great Basin College on the historic center of Rome and a little bit about the Roman Empire. So the objectives that I hope you come away with today is just to have a general understanding of some of the timeline leadership during the Roman Empire and why Rome, or the center of Rome, is a World Heritage Site, and a little bit about the literature and architecture from this period and what it tells us about the Roman people and the changing political landscape, the Pantheon, as well as the Trajan's column, and the benefits of the Roman Empire's strong military. So just to start out with the timeline, I tend to get a little bit lost if I don't have a timeline to look at, so that I kind of have a better understanding of when events were taking place. So this visual aid just shows how Caesar was a leader in the Roman Empire, and after he was assassinated, a series of civil wars broke out. There was sort of some discord. Different leaders were thought to sort of take over, but what ended up happening is Octavian, who was later named Augustus, took order, was recognized as the leader, and the republic sort of fell apart, and the government became a bit more like a monarchy. Then you have the death of Augustus, and I put here a number of Roman emperors through this paternal lineage. Those were just some rulers that we're not going to talk about today, and we're just going to jump ahead to Trajan, an emperor who led the army over the war against the Dacians, and some of his contributions to Rome. So here we have Augustus Caesar. And a little bit more of Roman history is that Rome was the epicenter of the Roman Republic and emerged as the center of the Roman Empire after the Civil Wars. It later became the capital of the Christian world during the 4th century, and it became a historic World Heritage Site because of the value that some of the monuments and architecture still hold. And they tell us that about the Roman culture, their arts, laws, leadership, and war and history. And the Roman people were expansive and innovative. Julius Caesar ruled like a dictator and led the military through a series of civil war conflicts over with his rival Pompey. Caesar was more militaristic than political, and senators were wealthy men who controlled the political landscape, influenced culture, and ruled the courts throughout the Roman Empire. Senators were unhappy with Caesar and decided to overthrow him in 44 BC. There was a split between Octavian, Antony, and Lepidus to be the ruler, and this great Western civilization was on the brink of political chaos, lost between the old republic and a new type of government with monarchic features. All right, finally the Senate granted Caesar's heir Octavian leadership powers with the new title of Augustus, which means divinely favored. Augustus united the Senate, assumed power in 27 BC, and led the empire into a new era where monarchy was overseeing republic leadership. This was a time of great prosperity for the Romans. According to Richard Alston, a professor of Roman history at the University of London, the patrimonial state had replaced the republic. The senators, plebs, and soldiers were subsumed by it, and the real power lay in the Augustan patrimonial network. Under Augustus, there was order, political power struggles were subdued, and wealth was being used to maintain structure and favor. The nobles, the military, and the masses were pretty accepting of the new order, generally speaking. The poet Virgil, which is where this excerpt comes from, wrote the Aeneid. This story is filled with emotion and foretelling fate. Fate of the Romans and how they were destined for greatness, led by honorable, high-spirited, and brave leaders. And this is a glimpse inside of the Pantheon. And the fathers, so this is from the Aeneid, quote, "And the fathers of gods himself already marks him out with his own bolts of honor. Under his auspices, watch, my son, our brilliant Rome will extend her empire far and wide as the earth, her spirit, high as Olympus." And this is the Pantheon, an outside picture, also how it's structured on the inside. And these both really go to show that they, believed in showing respect to their leaders and the greatness of Rome. So the Pantheon is filled with statues of the gods, but it's mostly associated with the power of emperors and their divine authority, according to Dr. Rano-Jakic. A number of scholars have recently suggested that the Pantheon wasn't just necessarily a temple to the gods, but more about showing respect and giving credence to the emperors and the rulers during that time. Specifically, Dr. Rano-Jakic says, quote, part of a ruler cult emerging around Augustus, end quote. And it was to respect the family line, basically. Sort of started with Caesar through Augustus and Agrippa. The empire continued to expand, and a few leaders later we have Trajan, and this is Trajan's column. The new leader Trajan led the Romans to war with the Dacians between 101 and 106 AD. The wealth they brought home from this conquest changed the landscape of Rome, according to some, but other sources argued that Trajan was skilled at budgeting and allocating resources to different projects, namely his improvements on the city of Rome and its architecture. These buildings and many other constructed provided thousands of jobs and kept the economy flowing. To commemorate their victory over the Dacians, Trajan had this monument built, a towering column with a statue of himself made of bronze on the top. Not all archaeologists agree about what they represent. There's a vast array of people who look differently than the Romans depicted on the Trajan monument. And people from the lands they have conquered, and it may speak to how the Romans were inclusive of the people from different groups. They encouraged people to adopt Roman tradition by romanticizing the strengths and attributes of their culture through literature and architecture. And they had a great sense of nationalism. So there you have it, a little bit about Romans and Roman history, their sense of nationalism, how they showed the great things that they could accomplish through innovation, architecture, and literature. They had growing wealth and romanticized conflict. They were a great Western civilization, and here is my bibliography. Thanks for watching.